Hi, this is Vishal, and now we have another session of the day that is very interesting and important topic of the day. We can say it means how we can use our web services call in your data bindings MVVM approach. So that's the interesting part of the day, and because of it, we already know that we are working with our local database and the web services REST APIs because we have to save our data and retrieve our data somewhere. So we use the request and responses using the JSON and other ways. But today I will show to you how we can use the Volley request and Volley response and get data in your data binding. So that's the topic of the day. And before that, I'm giving thanks to all users who watching my videos and who subscribe me and put it comments with there. So I will explain to you whatever your requirements in my future uploads time to time. So you will continue in this tour. Thank you for all your likes. Okay, so before we start the session, we have done lot of things in my previous videos. Number one, how we can use the simple data bindings in your view model. That base be clear to you. Then how we use your notification base observable way. And then we have worked with our list view with data class name, without data class name, and how we set our custom adapters and how we use the binding adapters and use the image view in your uh, list view models. That's how we can use the multiple fragments in your data bindings. And I think we have worked with your MVVM in your recycler view also. So that's the part, one-sided part we have covered. But now we working with the most important part, we can say it is the second part of the MVVM, how we use the remote server and how can access these things in your binding techniques. So here you see in my screen that we have a multiple layers. I just discriminate all the layers here. The first layer is your view layer, that is your views, means your login view, your registration view, your multiple views, where whatever you want in your app. And then in view model layers we have a particular view model for that view. So and both we have to data bind in that cases. How we can use the remote server access APIs and how we can access them. So that's the important part in the second phase of the day. And here if you see, there's on the center we have a data manager class. So this data manager class can access your login API services, and then you can send your JSON request and retrieve your data. So there are many approaches to doing that, using the Volley, use the retrofit, using these things. So today I will show to you how to use the Volley, and in the future uploads I will show to you how to use the retrofit, RX Java and other approaches. So but first thing, my motive is to clear your basic funda of how can access the remote APIs. So that's it. So if you see that there are two diagrams. One is your activity, multiple activity fragments. These your particular view models, get live data and update your view models using that live data. And this is your repository. You retrieve your data from your local databases or your web services, either your retrofit or your we can say it your Volley or others. Okay, so this is the way. But here, that is the most important diagram that I will explain to you practically today. What is that? Here you have a XML. Here you have a activity and view model. What happened? We just bind these two things, XML to your view model, and activity communicate using your activity manager. And these things we have done in many project using the Pozo and without Pozo. Okay, that means in my previous example. But now I will show to you, this is second phase of the day. That means how data manager class communicate with your REST API or your local database. But I will show to you the REST API today using the Volley. So Here your activity communicate to your data manager. If activity wants something from the data manager get access to REST API, and then once it responds back to your data manager class, it update your view model. Okay, that is the way we have to show. For this, I'm just create a small scenario. If you see on my screen, that I will explain to you practically. Little long video but very interesting part. Here this is your list view and the button. We have two things on my layout, and here we have a view model for particular binding, and here we have a inner layout. Means once we click on the button, it call the method of the data manager, and that data manager send the request to your server and get back the response. Once it be here, it update the view model, and that view model be in your inner layout. We have to bind these two things for the list view, and your list view be updated. So that's the way we have to walk. But how we can do it, so that is most important part. So one by one we have to solve this in our practically and in Android Studio. So let's see how we can achieve this. Okay, so let us start it in your Android Studio. For this, first we have to go for the Gradle, and here you can see that data binding enables true be already done. So this is your first and foremost things, and if you don't know that related to this data binding techniques, how we can enable or like that, you watch my previous tutorials in which I explain that how we can bind data. Okay, so there here we have to bind our data first. Data binding enables equals to true, and here you have to compile your volley, so you can get access the JSON request with here. So here we have a com.android volley 1 plus 0 point plus, that means you can use your plus versions. Okay, so that's it. So the first and foremost thing, we have to put these things, we have to compile the volley and your data binding. Now we have to come on the layout. So second thing is we have to make our XML list view and button. Okay, so now we have to come on this scenario. So for this, what we need here, already with the background color I have some green color, so I'm using the list view. This is your match parent and rep contents, and make this id is your list view. That's it. And if you want with the divider height, you just make it a 5 dp. That's good. Yeah, so list view be ready. And now we have to work with your button, and button your match parent rep contents. Here you can say it your text size be 16 dp, and you can text it as call data. Okay, so that's it. And text color I'm using white, that's already been my colors XML. And text style I'm using the bold, and parent bottom, mm, yeah, align parent bottom be true. Okay, and background color I'm choosing blue. That's it. So let's see the scene. Okay, that's fine. So this is our main activity be ready. See the doc. So there were XML, fine. The LX list view with the button. Okay, now we have to bind. This is the last way to bind the view model, because of first I have to work on the second phase. So you learn how we can get access the Volley using the data manager class. So I just need a method for that, and that method we work using the presenter. Okay, so make it easy little. First I have to create some packages name. Here remote package, then your adapters package, then your view models package. That's it. And yeah, one more package we needed, that is for presenters. This all methods be here. You have to declare all the methods which you want to get access or communicate with your data manager class and others. So this is your interface, and I'm using the name as a presenter. Okay, and here I'm making a function, a declaration that is called your public void send data, sorry, or you can say it, okay, so get JSON data. That's it. Okay, so that's the method we have to call. So for this we have to bind the presenter in your main activity. So how we can do, we use it as a layout, make it as a data. This video is a little long, but I want to clear all the basic fundas of the remote accessing. Okay, so this is your variable, and where variable name is presenter. That's fine. And here I'm giving the name to this. This is your com dot binding presenter. That's it. And okay, so make this layout as in below, and try to work little fast so can save our time. Okay, all the namespace be here. That's it. Okay, so yeah, so how we call the presenter here, in your on click method you can say it at brackets v, this is your presenter dot, and we have to call the method get JSON data. Yes, okay, and yeah, that is working. So everything is fine. Now we have to come on our main activity, and here you can say it is your private activity main binding. Yes, activity main binding that you have done many times, and activity main binding dot set, sorry, is equals to your data binding util dot set content view, this comma, and whatever be the layout, you just copy this layout here and hide. Okay, and now you have to make this activity binding as in a set presenter and say new presenter, so it create a function for you, that is your get JSON data. And if you want to see that the function works properly, so make a toast here, void show data. I think I don't want to make the toasters here in the future. I'm just showing to you that how it works. Otherwise you have to make your util package or a base activity in which you put all these kind of things, progress bar, show, and your toast, like that things. Okay, so this is your make text, and yeah, of course it is this, and this is your message, and this is your toast dot length long, and that's your show. Okay, so you can call this function be here show data and say hi. Okay, so whenever button press big click using the data binding, it always works. So I have to bind this function, that means I have to call the data manager class with this. Okay, so how, let's see the second phase first. So once we get the data, see in doc, so here we have a data binding with your button with the presenter. When we call the method using the presenter main activity to data manager class, it send request to Volley and get back data. Okay, so here I have a test URL for this. That means we have a student data somewhere, and I want to retrieve this first name, last name, age. So as you have your URLs, you can get access the things like, okay. So this is your uh, simple function ready. Okay, now we have to work with your remote. That is, under the remote you have to work with your data classes, data manager classes, and your Volley. So for this, what I want, okay, so first we have to create a singleton class for Volley. There are many ways to get approach the Volley, but I'm always be using a singleton Volley. So you can, if you want to save the time, you can copy paste somewhere. But here, I want to show to you how to create the singleton classes. So you can clear your funda for the singleton also. And I think everybody know why we use the singleton. We do not need to make everywhere the dynamic instances. You just create a single in the class instance there and get call that class anywhere. So that's the way to work with a singleton. Okay, and more brief you can Google it or can ask to me related to the singleton classes. So here we have a private, static, your Volley singleton, and Volley singleton. Make the instance here, give the name perfectly. So because of you have to create instances for this Volley singleton. Otherwise you can give other names, but I'm using the instance. So can uh, that means we can get it's in my mind that where we have to access it. Okay, so that's the instance. Okay, so the second thing is request queue. So that's with the request queue. And the third thing is in which context you want. So this is your context. So everything is ready. We have to create a function for the Volley singleton as in a private constructor, and here we can say it context. That's be nice. And this dot context, and that's your context. That's it. We have to pass data, and here you have a request queue. For this we need to create a class method, sorry, that is a get request queue. You can make your methods or your name for this, but I'm using the name get request queue, so we can get all the requests be here. Okay, so that means it's easily uh, remind that, yeah, that's the work for the get request queue. And one more thing that is the most important, you have to make a public static synchronized function for the Volley singleton get instance. Wherever you want with the instance for the context, you can use this. Okay, and first you have to check that your instance for that context, particular context, be null or not. If it is null, then you have to make the instance as a new Volley singleton context. Okay, because of we save our time, everywhere we have to work with this new Volley singleton likewise. Okay, so do not need that, we just call the instance of the Volley singleton anywhere in your complete project and then get easy. Okay, so this is your return instance, that's it. And then your method public request queue get request queue, in which you have to check your request be null or not. First you have to check the request queue is equals to null. Okay, and if request queue is a null, so what we have to do, just request queue Volley dot, you have to add the new request queue for the context and get application context. So easy. And return your request queue. That's fine. Okay. And the last method is you have to add all type. So void add to, you give your name to this, but I'm using the add to request or queue. Okay, so that's it. So this is your method name. um, and for this, what to do? Yeah, you have to work with, yeah, request. So that's your T, and this is your request. And here we have to put this method get request queue dot add your request. That's it. Okay, so our singleton be ready. So very simple singleton class is there. First you have to check the your Volley instance be null or not. If it is null, that create a new instance, and you put it your request queue be there. Wherever we have a new request, you just go for the context get application context and get request dot add that request. So you have to add that particular request and then Volley fulfill that request. So that's very easy. And the singleton class be ready under the remote. Very nice. And now we have to create a one more package under the remote, and that is called a data package. In this data package, I am making the class a data manager. That is the most important class by which we can get access, send a request and get a response using the Volley. So it's also be interesting. So what we have to do, you just create a private context and your function data manager class. This is your context, that means for particular context we have to call. So this is your context. Okay, and here you have to create your method that is called your public. That method we get interact with your main activity. So that is your send Volley request. Okay, so there are many approaches to work with Volley. That means we have to create your classes for the JSON request, JSON response, but I don't want to make that class at this time just because of all the users. I mean, I'm making these programs to describe to all the users can learn it easily. So I'm making the methods of the JSON object request be here. So how we can create it? So that's very simple. uh, okay, so let's see. So for this, what we have to do, you have a JSON object request, and for that JSON object request is equals to your new JSON object request. Okay, the main thing is where we have our API base URLs. So that means here I have a base URL for the students data. So I have to put this base URL, and I want to get this JSON first name last name is. So what to do for that? You just go for the remote, and remote make a Java class that is called your API call, and here you put all your base URLs. That means your request URLs be here. You can access those URLs be there. Okay, in your data manager class. So say API call dot base URL. So easy. And this is your new JSON object. Wow, that's nice. And now new request listener. Okay, and here showing the red because of it's not be completed. So first make a semicolon, and before this curly, after this curly bracket say comma, and new response error listeners, because of it's working for response and errors both. Okay, and how we have to reach this? So say volley singleton dot get instance for this context dot your add to request queue your JSON object request. Okay, so that means this request we have to add in the volley singleton. So in anywhere you want it, you just make the volley singleton and then put it this request in your complete project. So use this line. So that means it is a benefit of your singleton class. Okay, so I just want to check it. What is the response we first? So copy this show data here just for checking, just to test it, and here you make it context. So we'll see the response. Okay, and if response not coming, so that means there's some errors. So error dot to string. So this is your simple scene for the data manager class. So I want to call this data manager in a main activity, and in main activity what we have to do? Okay, create a private data manager, and that's your data manager is equals to new data manager this. Okay, for this context, and here data manager dot send volley request. Okay, so you have to call the functions we here using the data manager. And as we want the data from internet accessing, so we use a permission, internet permission. That's it. So these things be ready first. This call be there, and we get access the means your response or error, whatever it be. We have to check that first, and once it is fine, then we have create our inner layout here and bind our data using the custom adapter in your by your view model. Okay, so we have to create view model now, but first I have to cross check the things whether our where JSON request be accessing or not. So for that use the Genymotion. Just wait for that. Okay, and run this. Okay, let's see what happened here. You have to call this data, yeah, say hi, and yeah, this is our student data on the screen. That's it. So now we have to work with this in your Word doc. Yeah, here we have our inner layout, so we have to put this data and make a view model for this to make to set our custom adapter. Okay, so for the list view, so make a view model and say the Java class as a user model. So easy, and user model, and what we have in a user model, we have a first name, last name, and age. So make it as a public. I'm just getting the first name, last name, and your age, and put it on the and show it in the list view. So I'm not as any base observable or other things here. If you want to work with that, if you want to work with your images, then you make it as a base observable that I already described to you. That's using the br dot your class name and you get access the things. But in the future I will upload one more video that is related to your image views also from the JSON, but otherwise it's work the same, okay, as you seen in my previous videos. Last name and age, and generate your getter setter, sorry, constructor. No need of getter setter at this time. That's be your user models. Okay, so we have to bind this user model and make to create a layout here. Layout is your inner layout. That's it. And in inner layout I want to make it as a linear one. Wrap contents, orientation vertical, and background color be blue one. Okay, so that's it. Now we have a text views. Text view, match parent, wrap contents, and this is your text, and text is if it is a first name, so make it a first name, and text color be a white, and text size be your 18 dp. That's it. And margin top we make it as a 10 dp. Anything else? Yeah, okay, that's fine. So we have to bind these three taxes be here for the first name, last name, and age. Okay, so what to do for that? We have to bind this for user model. So make it a layout and put this layout be here. And make a data, and I want be the class name here as a user data, yeah, user model binding. Okay, and use a variable name as user model here. Okay, so that's your com dot okay, so that's your user model. So easy. Okay, and now in this text we have to put what is okay, here I have done some mistake. That is user data class only, not a name. Okay, that's my mistake. Okay, so make it as at the rate and user model dot first name. Okay, just copy user model last name, user model age. This is your last name. Okay, so everything is here on your layout, and yeah, let's see. Okay. So we have bind the things for the layout. Here our model be ready, and the most important thing, how to set data on the model. So we need a custom adapter for that. So go for your adapter folder, Java custom adapter. Okay, because of this class is here in an inner layout, we give the name user model binding. It we can't access, we can't get access it till we rebuild it. So first we have to rebuild the project. So it know that there be some class of a data class name user model binding, and we get access that class wherever I need it. Okay, so build it, rebuild it one single till make the custom adapter. In custom adapter, what we need, that's we extend your base adapter. Okay, so for this, make implement methods, all the 4 methods. Very nice. And here we need a private array list of kind of user model array list, that's it. And private context, this is your context, and make this public custom adapter context comma array list user model. Okay, and this is your array list, that's it. And context, this dot context, yeah, is your context. And this dot your array list is your array list. Okay, so constructor be ready. Now here the Gradle build running. Okay, so first we need how much get count we need it. I want to return the array list dot size. Okay, so that's your get count. And here object get item what we want, and the particular item we need it. So say array list dot get I, that means particular index positioning. Okay, so the last one is nothing, remain it as same. And the main work is on the view and how we can make this view. Okay, so that's the thing. So first you have to give the proper name of this position convert view, and this is your parent. Everything is fine, that's it. And now we can access our class B here. User model binding, this is your user model binding. Okay, so I think if you see my previous tutorials that you already worked with this data class name in your list view. So for this, what we have to do, we first check the convert view is equals to null or not. And if it is a null, then we make it as a convert view as your layout inflator dot from context, and that inflate your dot layout dot just alt enter it first, import the class so it can see that it is your inner layout. Okay, and because of it we inflate to our parent, so nothing we have, so null. And here this is your user model binding. So user model binding is your data binding util dot bind. What we have to bind? Our convert view. Okay, and also we have to set the tag here, so that means your convert view the set tag for what? User model binding. So that means if it is null, then you have to set your tag be there, else What we needed? We needed user model binding as is equals to your user model binding class and convert view dot get tag. Okay, so that's all. If you already set, you just get that particular tag, and then we have to set our user model there. So user binding dot set user model. This is your array list dot get position. Okay, and then last you have to return your user model binding dot get root. So everything is fine. That's okay. And our custom adapter be ready. In very less code, we have covered these things. Do not bind the find view by id, likewise that. So now the data binding is very interesting and MVVM approach so easy everywhere. Okay, so now we have to work with this again, data manager class. There are two approaches here. Now we are just end of this project. That is, everything's be clear here. XML be ready, inner layout be ready, view model ready, main activity, data manager class, presenter. But how we can call the method and get back to the main activity? So using the data interface. So we have to make a data interface by which we can set our data values there. Okay. So once is because of it updated your view model, but there are two approaches. Either you can work with the view model and show it, and other is you can set the adapter in your main activity. So I just want to make first that how you can set the adapter in your main activity. That is the interesting part of the main activity. So for this, what we needed, we need some good things that is called here in a data. First we have to check which kind of data we have. We have a JSON object data. Okay, so go for remote under your data, and in the data you have to create an interface data values or data values set, whatever you want. Okay, so this is your data interface, I mean public interface data values. So here I am creating two function, public void set JSON data response as in a JSON object of JSON object. Okay, so I think there is a JSON object response. Okay, just giving the same name here so you don't get confused. That is your JSON object response, and the second is your public void set Volley error, and that is your Volley error. So if you see that on your data manager class, okay, so here you have a Volley error. This is your Volley error. Okay, so that's two things we here, and now these data values we are using. So hide this show data, and for set the adapters, what we need in a send request, you say the context be here, comma, final data values. Okay, this is your data values, and in data values you have to set these things as a JSON object, and this is your response. That means we have set the values here, and again The same thing you have to work with it. Set Volley error as an error. Okay, so here it is error. Fine, so everything is fine here, and how we can get it on your main activity, that is the main thing. So hide this at this time. In a JSON data, now the scene is changed because of our method become like a context and data values in a particular context for the particular context. So do like a data manager send volley request, and that is this dot, or you can say main activity dot this, because of whenever you want these kind of methods interfaces, you have to pass that which kind of context you have to pass there. Okay, so that is your new data values. Okay, so here you can get your data. Fine, and we have to put the and set the adapter here. So one more thing we need it, we need a list view, private list view as in a list view. Okay, and say list view as in a list view, find view by id r dot id dot list view. That's it. Very nice. And one more thing I needed, that is our private custom adapter. Okay, that we have to set there, and private array list as of user model. Okay, that we have to pass in our custom adapter that you already worked in many times if you see my previous tutorials. Okay, so it's also easy for that. So here you can set the JSON responses. So for that what we need, you need a user model. Okay, so say this is your user model, and this user model, and also this is your array list, new array list. Okay, and we have to try for our JSON array. So say try, and here you have a catch for JSON exception, and for this we need a JSON array. JSON array is equals to new, sorry, is your response dot get JSON array of name of, what is the name, students. Okay, so that's your students. Okay, so you fetch this JSON array here and see what is the result, and now we have to explore this. So okay, so for that for int I is equals to 0, I is less than your JSON array dot length, and I plus plus. Okay, so that's the thing, and this is your JSON object user, and that your JSON array get JSON object, and I have to explore all the objects in this users. So that means first is your string first name, and that is your user dot get string. I think this thing you are doing, and you know well how you can first name get the things. Okay, and just copy paste it. This is your last name, this is your age, this is your last name, this is your age. Okay, so everything is fine, and then you have to put these things in your user model. So say user model is equals to new user model, and you have to put your first name comma last name comma age. Okay, and then you have to put this in your array list dot add your user model. Okay, so that the things is fine, and now you have to set your custom adapter here. So the custom adapter is new custom adapter, and main activity dot this, we have to set this adapter, and this is your array list. Okay, and here this is your list view dot set adapter custom adapter. Okay, so things be ready, and just see it. Yeah, we have covered all the things we have. Yes, now cross check it, what happened. Run this in a journey motion. Okay, let's see what happened in it. Yeah, this. Okay, so we have to call the data. Yeah, everything is there. That means all the records as per my doc here. So that means I think we can access like this. We have a XML activity fragment view model. First we have to get interact with the data manager, call the methods, and then update our view model and using the REST API. And this simple scenario I have covered with the practical. In the future I will show to you that how we can use the retrofit and your RX Java, so likewise that. So just continue this tour with me. Thank you so much for the day. Thank you.